Came to be, why they're organizing to re-elect Ed Markey, and how their lives and campaigning have changed in the past 2 months. So thank you everyone for being here. Can we go around and all just introduce ourselves, where you're from and where you're a student at actually? Haley, if you want to go first, that's fine.
My name's Haley Fleming. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a student at Amherst College, and I'm originally from Tampa, Florida, which is where I've been quarantining.
I can go. Hi, my name is Jack DeBow. I use he, him pronouns. I go to St. John's Prep, and I'm from Wakefield, Mass.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I use she, her pronouns. I am from Malden, Massachusetts, and I go to school at Providence College, Rhode Island.
Hi, my name is Kala. I use she, her pronouns, and I live in Cambridge, but I go to the Windsor School in Boston.
Awesome. Very cool. Let's go back to the beginning to start us off. I know many of you were already supporters online and offline of Senator Markey, but clearly you decided to take things a little bit further than that. Haley, do you want to take me through how Students for Markey came to be? How did it all start?
Definitely. So a lot of us kind of already knew each other from other campaigns that we had worked on, or just Twitter really. And we all knew that we were Markey supporters, and so we started thinking about how we wanted to make sure that that group of young people who were so passionate about his policies became more cohesive and started working as a unit. So it kind of started just as, making a group me and starting with a planning call. And then from there, we started coming up with more and more ideas about how to get more people involved and what kind of efforts we should be using to engage young people and support his campaign and his policies. So it kind of started really small with just 10 or 11 of us. And now we have, over 100 people sign up, and we have dozens of people on all of our phone banks. So.
That's very cool. I was going to say, for the rest of you, why, or was there a specific moment that was the impetus for any of you to start this or join this, join the campaign?
Yeah. Actually, after the primaries were, they were all happening all at once, kind of all of a sudden. And then once that kind of drew to a stop, a lot of my friends and I, who, were former campaign interns, we were thinking, how do we get back in the fight? What's our next thing? What do we do next? Who do we support next? And for a lot of us, we are from Massachusetts. We go to school in Massachusetts, and we knew that Senator Ed Markey was running for re-election. And he was someone that we didn't just want to support, but we wanted to knock doors for him. We want to, host phone banks for him. And I put all those friends of mine from previous campaigns into a group chat. And it was supposed to be a, once we are all back home, we can go knock doors, but then Corona happened. So they kind of automatically just started organizing, which I think is kind of what we all do naturally because we organize at heart. And that's kind of how Students for Markey became an official thing, because I don't think we knew how to do anything else when we had a group of people who were willing to do more.
Yeah, I remember my real first time I saw Senator Markey speak was at a canvas launch in New Hampshire for Senator Warren. I was a fellow on her campaign. He showed up with a huge bus of people from the South Shore. He came and talked to us and tried and inspired us to go outdoors, and it was amazing. And I really resonated with him and his values that he was speaking about. It was just so cool to see my two senators working together and fighting for real structural change, and that's when I got inspired. And I think that moving over campaign to campaign, speaking to so many people, I see that Senator Markey has these amazing ideas and has these really cool values. And I think that's what really inspired me to join.
Yeah, adding on to that, I also worked on the Elizabeth Warren campaign, and after she dropped out, and after I began to emotionally recover, I was super excited to start working for more down the ballot candidates. And I've been volunteering for Ed's campaign since before Kennedy challenged him. But I think I've seen how close this race is, and it's more important than ever just to mobilize supporters. And I think especially young people, especially students, because a lot of the issues that Senator Markey is the strongest on, like the climate crisis, gun violence, student debt, unemployment, young people are the most impacted by those issues. And I think that we should be the ones who are talking to voters about why we're supporting Ed. So yeah.
What are some efforts that you guys have been getting into, or events that you guys have held? What has made up the bulk of the Student for Markey work? I've been following along with the issues graphics. They're great. I love those. So just tell me a little bit about what you guys have been up to.
Yeah, well, the issues graphics you were talking about, we decided we wanted to focus a lot of our social media outreach on kind of the policies that he's been a champion of, since that's, part of why we love him, the issues that he champions. So we started with a week of graphics and video testimonials about the Green New Deal, what he's done to champion those issues and why it's really important to us. And then we got a lot of great feedback from that. So last week we did net neutrality. This week we're doing legalizing cannabis. And we have a whole set of 10 or 12 weeks planned already of different policies that he's been a leader on. And then we're going to have people kind of record videos about why that's important to them. So that's something that we've been focusing on so far on the policy side.
And part of the reason why policy was so important to us is because it's the politics of substance. It's what's actually happening behind the scenes. And I think that there may be this assumption that young people, would be bored by it, would not be concerned about it, but actually young people who, really do care about these issues and how they affect their lives, we want to know the details of it. And we want to know, the supposedly boring stuff, because that's the kind of thing that actually makes a legislator good at their job, and it's the kind of thing that creates a better world. So we wanted to make that be accessible and easy to understand, but also something that's fun and builds community.
Yeah, we've also been doing we've been doing weekly phone banks, which have been super great. And yeah, mainly relational phone banking, which is calling people, friends and family. We also did some just virtual phone bank lists, calling people who've requested nomination papers and recruiting them to volunteer. And then one highlight was we had a kickoff call with Ed, which was super fun. Yeah.
And we've also doing a lot on social media as well. On the creative side, I've been running our TikTok, and we've been making so many awesome videos and just promoting Ed's TikTok as well, and just trying to get that 50,000 views, and overall just trying to create good content people enjoy, also is super informative and helps people learn about Senator Markey's policies and why he is best senator for Massachusetts.
One awesome thing we have coming up is a joint phone bank with the Texas College Democrats. They reached out to me on Twitter and said that as an organization, they were all obsessed with Ed Markey. And I was like, wow, us too. And they asked if they could plan a joint phone bank with Students for Markey. So the entire Texas College Democrats organization is going to be phone banking with us in a couple weeks, which we're really excited about because we love that support that we're getting from every corner of the country. So.
That's fantastic. I think there really is it's a silver lining, if you will, of young people around the country who are now, kind of just biding their time. Some of them will have things to do, but a lot of them are in a holding pattern, it feels like. And so for people who are, politically active or care about these issues, I think it's a really good time for, and social media can connect across state lines, all the way across the country. So that's really great and very exciting. And yeah, I think it's been awesome to see you guys coming out with this stuff that really combines the substance with, the easily accessible, because he has such a long career that there's so much to cover and there's so many issues, and it can be a lot, but you just got to find that issue that's important to that voter. And so you guys have been doing a great job of diverse content, if you will. Do you guys have any specific goals for this effort other than, of course, getting Ed reelected? Is there anything that you're hoping to accomplish either individually or as a group through Students for Markey?
One thing that's pretty important to me is that I think a lot of the people who've been volunteering so far, most of them are like very politically aware, but some people have never volunteered on an actual campaign before. And so it's been super exciting to have people joining the campaign for the first time. And I think learning organizing skills that will last with them like past this one campaign. And then also, I guess like people realize that they as individuals have the potential to like impact the state of a race. And I think that's super empowering. And I hope that sticks with people past the Markey campaign.
That's
and
great.
I think one of the really extraordinary things about someone like Ed Markey and his appeal is that he doesn't run just a campaign, he built a movement around that, because he is someone who cares about all these things that are also critical, and he draws so many people in, and it's an intergenerational campaign, because that's just how amazing of a candidate he is. And for us, and for me personally, I think it's really important that lasts, and that we don't just turn out the youth vote for Ed Markey, this year, but that we keep inspiring people who come into Ed Markey's campaign to continue his fights in other places, and to inspire them to do their own organizing, not just with the skills they have, but with the passion they bring into this.
I love that idea. And yeah, Ed's really, it's an issue that's very important to him. Young people getting involved, not just in politics, but in activism. And again, not just with climate and the climate crisis, but with a variety of issues that are all, very important and timely coming in the next couple of years. So it's great that you guys are helping to empower young people. And to that point, this is a wild card question for the record, but what would you say to any students out there who are looking to get into, activism or politics, or to start their own student support group for their own candidate?
I would just say, just do it. Like, follow your passions and what you believe in, because the best way to be successful in these types of organizations, like starting a student-led thing, is to follow your passion and see like, oh yeah, this candidate supports this legislation, I'm so passionate, I want to fight for that. Just do it, because you're never going to do it unless you are super, super passionate. So you just gotta like jump in the swimming pool and just like go.
And I think the thing about politics is that it often appears to be this distant thing that happens in Washington, D.C. And, so many people, no matter their age or their background, feel like they don't have a place in it. But the thing with, this insurgency of grassroots mobilization is that young people and all people, especially people who usually don't have a place in politics historically, they do now. And there's a new way to approach politics because of the grassroots nature of so many movements that's happening right now. And I think it's really important that we take advantage of that, because if we don't, then the moment's going to pass and we'll sit back and realize that we didn't do what we could to make the change we wanted in the world. So just jump in. It's scary until it's not.
That's great advice. Honestly, that's great advice in really anything. So thank you for that. We're going to take a quick break now. When we come back, we're going to be talking about progressive values that all of us are so passionate about and why we're working to get Ed reelected. So stay tuned.
Lillian, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm a senior in college. I support Ed Markey's Green New Deal because of its impressive plans to create social support for frontline and minority communities. I also appreciate the proposed practical infrastructure and economic approach that will attempt to mitigate the destructive results of capitalism.
I'm Matt, and I support net neutrality. Net neutrality is a tough concept, but it essentially keeps certain internet providers from blocking their competitors' content and keeps the internet open and equal access for everybody. Ed Markey is one of the staunchest defenders of this, and when it looked like it was going to go away in 2018, Ed led the charge to make sure that the internet stayed open for everyone. We're seeing right now how important internet access is for everyone, and Ed has been one of the strongest fighters in the Senate for this, which is why I support his re-election and his net neutrality work.
Hi guys! guys, my name is Ellen. I'm a fellow with the campaign and a member of Students For Markey. This week we're talking about Ed's work on Alzheimer's research. This is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. Just like Ed, my family has seen the really devastating impacts of this disease. Ed's mother died of Alzheimer's and my grandmother passed away this January of Alzheimer's after suffering with it for a decade. So I can see the harmful impacts that it has on families and how it changes your life forever and how it's really devastating to watch happen to one of your loved ones. Ed has committed a lot of his time to making lasting changes on the way that we talk about Alzheimer's and the way that we research Alzheimer's. He has gotten a lot of money for Alzheimer's research, and he has really dedicated himself to finding a cure for Alzheimer's by 2025. This issue is super close to my heart, and it's super close to Ed's heart, and it's super impacted families across the United States, and this is just one of many reasons why you should vote for Ed on September 1st.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, everyone driving this campaign has their reasons for getting involved in supporting Ed Markey. So let's talk about why each of you decided to join Students for Markey. Kala, why don't you start us off? What is like the issue that you remember seeing that Ed was passionate about that really sold you on him as a candidate and made you want to get involved?
So like I said earlier, I began volunteering for the campaign before there was a major challenger, but I feel like there was never definitely a specific moment where I decided to support Ed, just because it wasn't really like a question, just because I think he's the most qualified and the most progressive candidate in the race. So that's just like a no-brainer. I will say definitely one issue that I think I feel super strongly about and that like strengthened my support for Ed was learning more about his upbringing and like his personal life. I think like he grew up working class, and the stories that he tells about his upbringing, about his family, I think lived experience is super important, at least for me when I decide like which politicians I should support. And I think Ed Markey's like lived experience as a working class person really like strengthens his ability to understand those issues and to fight for the best policies to help working class people.
Yeah, I would definitely say that one issue that I've seen a lot is about gun violence and gun control. 'Cause I know I'm super passionate about that because I understand the feeling of going into school and being scared for your life. And like one of my first memories of being in school is during our school shooter drill and hiding under my kindergarten Lego table. And I think that no student or no child should have to go through those traumatic experiences because the U.S. is scared to make common sense gun laws. I think his values and his fighting for common sense gun control is what really sparks fire in me.
I first met Senator Markey at the College Democrats of Massachusetts Boston kickoff event that we had in September. And he was one of the first major elected officials to come to one of our events in a couple years. So he came and he arrived like 15 minutes early, which doesn't happen with elected officials. And he kind of stood outside and met the entire executive board and asked us if he could take a picture with us. And then when it was really cute. And then when he went in, he really engaged with all the questions that students were asking, and was just clearly very excited to be there. And everybody was just raving about how wonderful he was. And then after the event, I got an email from the campaign asking if he could come to our Western regional kickoff the following weekend. So he ended up coming to 2 College Democrats events in 6 days, which was wonderful. And he brought the same enthusiasm and excitement to the follow-up event. And that was when, I knew that I liked his policies and I knew he was a champion for the causes that I believe in, but he also was just so excited to meet young people and hear what our concerns were. And that's when I really knew that he was a candidate that I really wanted to fight for.
The first time I ever heard about Ed Markey was actually in my AP US Government Politics class. He's from my hometown, which means Ed Markey is like urban legend around here. Like he just gets mentioned in school. Just why not? And it's the fact that his community still loves him and supports him. I think that's testament to who he is and his character. And I think he just made an impact on all the people at my school by association of him being from where we're from, and him being someone we're still proud of, that there was a point where my high school theater class literally wrote him into our show. And it was like this main character writing a letter to a senator asking for a recommendation letter for the Air Force. And like he in the show, he's this warm and like approachable and just like everyday guy who was representing us in Congress. And it was that image of who he was that just made me want to know more about him. And then, finding out that he is the co-author of the Green New Deal and is on the front line fighting for crime and justice and just doing all these things that are so important to everyone in America, but also especially to the youth and to our future. It made me love him even more. And then that led to me looking into all his other policies, which is this constant stream of finding out more about Ed Markey and every step of the way being proven right that he is in fact, a high quality public official who has been serving his people for a really long time and doing it exceptionally well.
Those are all like really great examples and really great stories. I didn't grow up in Massachusetts. I went to Northeastern, which is how I ended up here in Boston. And yeah, I just learning more about him through working on the campaign. It's like every time I turn a corner, there's like a new issue that he led on, and it never fails to amaze me. And having, like you said, Haley, getting to know him a little bit better on the personal side versus the politician side, and seeing that he's just as passionate as you would hope and imagine has been very, very rewarding, I would say. So thank you for sharing all of those stories. What has been your favorite moment so far on the campaign, maybe specifically for Students for Markey? I know it's sort of in its infancy a little bit, so we can expand to the campaign at large, but I'm curious if you have any favorite moments so far.
When we had our kickoff call that Senator Markey spoke at, there were a ton of students that came, and about halfway through the call, we split off into Zoom breakout rooms with 6 or 7 students per room, just so we could introduce ourselves and get to know each other. So I was in a breakout room with people I'd never met before, and they each had really unique personal reasons for supporting him, talking about how they'd seen what he'd done for their small community in Massachusetts, and just his passion for the same issues that they were passionate about, and hearing all of those really individual, unique reasons that students were supporting Ed Markey, and especially those students that had never been involved in a campaign before. It was just incredible to see the impact that he's had on, young people everywhere.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite moments was actually back in September, the Labor Day breakfast every year that in the city of Boston, where me and Kala and one of our friends were there, and we were at a canvas. And I remember I just got off the tee, and I could just hear everyone was like chanting, and there was just like, and then Ed came. It was just like so awesome, and it was like an intergenerational visibility event where there was like super young kids, also like older adults who were there just to like cheer on our champion Ed Markey, and it's like while he's going in to talk to union leaders, and it was just like it's an amazing experience, and like we got to meet him, and he talked to us, and just awesome.
Yeah, that was super fun. I'd also say that probably my favorite part of Students for Markey so far was also the kickoff call, just because I think it was really nice to have everyone in the same place. And then Ed came on and talked to us, which was so nice for him to come. And he actually sang happy birthday to one of our members whose birthday it was. And we were all super impressed. He had a super good voice. But that was just super sweet. And I think that shows a lot about like who he is and how much he cares about like the people of Massachusetts. Yeah. So that was definitely a highlight.
Yeah. I cried. Like I literally teared up when he started singing. It was one of those things where a politician does, you're like, oh wow, like you are a human being with feelings and you care about people and you're good at your job. And it's one of those things I think makes politics seem incredibly real and personable, and that's why I love organizing, because it creates community. And Ed being a part of that community and welcoming us into his campaign and allowing us the support we need, because his campaign is so supportive of what we do, and having that be a thing that we do together and having students be given the space on his campaign that's been so incredible to me. So I think it's definitely that moment when we saw a different side of Ed that like we kind of always knew was there, but like that confirmation was really nice, and he has a really good singing voice.
I'm gonna cheat and list 2 reasons. He also did a College Democrats in Massachusetts virtual town hall over Zoom about a month ago, I think. And I asked him at the end of the town hall about his famous sneakers. And so he like took off his shoe and held it up for the camera and then told us this really adorable story about the shoes and how he grew up playing basketball. And then he revealed that he's a congressional free throw champion. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, like that's so cool. And it was just wonderful to hear him tell that story that he was clearly so excited about and so excited to share, and it made him just seem real.
Totally. I am biased a little bit, but I love anything to do with basketball and Ed. I'm happy. I'm there. I love the shoes. The shoes, other than like actual like, you know, milestone moments, the shoes might be my favorite, you know, extracurricular type of favorite moment of the campaign so far. The sneaker pick. Yeah, those are all really good milestones. It's been a different campaign obviously than we've expected, but I think you know, there's been a bit of a silver lining in being able to all gather together by force over Zoom. I really look forward to twice a week we have our all staff meetings, and it's really nice to be able to see everyone in one place at once, because, you know, otherwise we'd be spread out around the state. So there is something really nice about the community of organizing and the extra steps that we have to take now that we're distant, but they make it worth it in the end, I would say. We're going to take another short break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about digital organizing. What's it like to try and reach voters when you can't go knock on their door? Stay tuned to find out.
My name's Amanda. I'm a volunteer and fellow in the Ed Markey campaign and a leader of Students for Markey. I want to talk about Alzheimer's disease today because it's an issue that affects over 5 million people in the United States, but it's something most people hardly ever talk or think about. My dad is one of those 5 million people, and he's had Alzheimer's for about 10 years now. He's in the final stages of the disease, but it's just a really tough journey for us to go through as a family. There's currently no cure for Alzheimer's and not even any effective treatments. Ed Markey also had a parenthood Alzheimer's. His mom passed away from it in 1999. And he's been the biggest advocate in Congress for Alzheimer's research and funding for years. It's because of Ed Markey that we have a national goal to find a cure for Alzheimer's by 2025. He's also made it a central issue of his campaign, which I'm so thankful for. I'm supporting Ed Markey because he's not afraid to take a stance on issues as huge and pressing as Alzheimer's disease, which affects so many families like mine. And because he's not afraid to imagine the big solutions that we need in our country to make sure everyone is taken care of. That means a cure for Alzheimer's disease, Medicare for all, and a Green New Deal. If this is the future that you want for our country, then I hope you'll join me in supporting Ed Markey for re-election.
Hi everybody, my name's Sophie and I'm going to be a first year at Mount Holyoke in the fall. And I'm a supporter of the Green New Deal because the climate crisis is already ravaging our communities and drastic action is needed now. I'm proud of First Senator Markey's leadership on this issue in the Senate. Environmental racism has ravaged frontline communities for decades, and I'm grateful that the Green New Deal puts environmental justice at its core. I'm thankful for Senator Markey's leadership and for the Green New Deal for fighting to ensure clean air, clean water, access to nature, and a livable future for everyone.
All of our lives have changed since the pandemic has began. You know, we're learning online. I know you're Students for Markey, so I'm sure all of your lives have changed in at least that way. Campaigning has moved online. So I was wondering if you guys could tell me a little bit about how your lives have changed and how you've had to adapt over the past couple of months.
It's been really strange being back here. I love Malden, I love Massachusetts, and I love where I'm from, the community that I have here. But I also never really expected to live here full time. I also didn't expect to spend as long of a summer as I have now here. You know, like it was always my plan to try and, you know, get an internship somewhere else and, you know, be an adult in the real world and, you know, have professional experiences. But it's rendered me unable to do that because of a pandemic that's, you know, sweeping across the nation and the world. So that's been really jarring and unexpected. And what's getting me through it is the fact that like I can still organize digitally and knowing that I'm still, you know, doing something productive and good while I'm stuck at home has been kind of silver lining in that. And because nothing else is going on, I have more time to do that, which is really nice. But it's definitely been a unexpected experience in every kind of way.
We do just get a good 12 a.m. text from Jenny every night talking about
midnight organizing. It's where it's at.
Our group chat is always active until about 1 a.m. Because none of us have real sleep schedules anymore. That's definitely a change that I've experienced. And like Jenny was saying, I had a lot of big plans for the semester and the summer that don't exist anymore. But we're trying to make the best of it. I've, made new friends through digital organizing and gotten to do a lot of, virtual town halls and things that I never thought about doing, just because doing Zoom town halls and Zoom meetings wasn't something on my mind. And, outside of organizing, I've also been FaceTiming my friends a lot more than I would have. So I think it's actually in some ways brought me closer to my friends as I've, made that extra effort to stay in touch with people, which is something I know a lot of my friends are experiencing, and that's been a silver lining for me.
Yeah, I think we've definitely had to all of a sudden pivot to totally organizing digitally. And I think that's been exciting because a lot of like campaign workers and older people are suddenly like turning to the youth, because a lot of us already live in a digital world. And so I think it's been pretty cool for us to have more leadership in these areas and to sort of guide how we're interacting as a campaign online. And I think obviously like it's like really tragic what's going on, but I do think it's like a new opportunity for us to explore different kinds of campaigning, like not only just when you're in the middle of a pandemic, but also like in this whole online world, because that's where the voters are now.
Yeah. This pandemic definitely feels like a generational upheaval, because there are so many people graduating into a really terrible job market, into a lot of uncertainty. It's been catastrophic in the lives of real Americans. People are dying, people are getting sick, and there's so much trauma in that. And it's a global catastrophe. And, its impact is monumental, but then in small ways, there's so much that's different. And it doesn't really have that much of an impact, but our lives are just skewed. And one of the things that I noticed is that, like, I always worked like in the middle of the night, like I'm a night owl, it's what I do. But now it's like acceptable. Nobody questions my like 11 p.m. emails. Like, yeah, this is just normal. And I think that distortion that just makes it, even if we aren't directly impacted by it too much because we're fortunate enough, our lives are still different on all these smaller levels. I think that definitely makes a lasting impression, especially because we don't know if it's going to get much better anytime soon.
Yeah, and I honestly have really been enjoying digital organizing, because I've lived on the internet my entire life. Twitter is my most used app, like by far. So I think that adapting to digital organizing has been really difficult, but I'm really enjoying like teaching the older generations how to like use Van, or like use a virtual phone bank on your phone and your laptop and on Zoom. I just really enjoying to like showing people like internet is cool. The internet can do so much, and I think this whole pandemic has really shown us that like we had to rely on each other more than we actually did.
It's certainly traumatic every day. Just checking the news. I'm also pretty addicted to Twitter, and it's definitely a big weight, but yeah, it's turning to those sort of forced opportunities. I mean, Team Markey TV might not exist if there wasn't a pandemic going on. That would make it kind of easy for all of us to get on Zoom. So yeah, but definitely an interesting idea of teaching the older generation. I hadn't really thought of it like that. Maybe that's because of my digital day-to-day, but that's a really interesting point that it offers that opportunity for the older generation too. How can people get involved with Students for Markey if they're interested in joining?
So we have a sign-up form. It's bit.ly/Students for Markey. The first letter of every word is capitalized, but you can just fill that out. So we have all your contact info, and then join our Slack group. And that's just a workspace where we send updates about like events we have, opportunities to get involved, whether you want to like do stuff on social media or phone bank, or just learn more about the campaign. So I think joining the Slack group is like the best way to get started, and then you can connect with everyone else.
And definitely I'd recommend following all of our social media accounts. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And that's where we post all of our updates as well about phone banks and then the policy features I was mentioning and everything like that.
And if you have questions about any of it, just shoot us a DM or write us an email. You can find all of us by name on Twitter. You can also just reach out to any of the social media accounts as a team, and somebody will get back to you probably within, like 24 hours. We want anybody who wants to help. We want this to be as inclusive as possible. So if you want to join, you're so welcomed. But if you also have ideas, we want to hear those ideas.
I would also highly recommend our TikTok. I know, it's just my favorite app. It's besides Twitter, of course, but I think that TikTok has shown us how the younger generation is really leading into this new digital world, and it's very fun. I think our entire team creates amazing content on there. So go follow, please.
Fantastic. That was a lot of really accessible steps for anyone that's interested in joining. Thank you all so much for being here today. I think that's all the questions that I have for Students for Markey. To those of you watching at home, thank you for tuning in to Team Markey TV. Be on the lookout for more content from Team Markey, and to get involved with our grassroots movement, you can visit edmarkey.com for more information. You can also visit support.edmarkey.com to create your own supporter page, and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at edmarkey. Stay safe and healthy, everyone. Thank you again to Students for Markey for joining us today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
The political tide has turned on the rising seas. We are reclaiming our leadership on the most important issue facing humankind. We can deliver a Green New Deal for America. This is an incredible moment. All of the supporters who are here today support the climate, clean energy, social justice, public health. We are talking about repairing the historic oppression of frontline and vulnerable communities. The most powerful movement organizing in the United States today. Grassroots organization. We can deliver a Green New Deal for America. We can deliver wind, solar, offshore wind. It will only be through an historic, generational commitment to end climate change that we create the kind of democracy that works for all Americans. Never in our history have the interests of all Americans been so united. I want to thank my fantastic partner, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. We will